Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Total Podcast with me, your host, Phil Scott. So, on this episode of the Total Podcast, I have a very special guest that I'm honored to have on. Her name is Melanie Hellwig White, and she is the CEO of Hellwig Products. So, with that, let's introduce Melanie. So, Melanie, it's so nice to have you on the podcast today. I'm glad you could join me.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here with you. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So, why don't you tell me about the history of your company, when it started, and what you do because you're the CEO and you are the SEMA board chair elect now. And so tell me what that entails too, and just everything about the business and what you're doing with SEMA and anything else you feel is relevant. So go ahead.
Okay, awesome. So I am fourth generation. So my great grandfather started Hellwig Products with my grandpa back in 1946. So they started selling and making helper springs. So Hellwig is still made in the USA. We make our products here in Central California. We're very proud of what we do here. And the way we started was my great grandfather and grandfather would make helper springs at night. And it's really obvious if the vehicle needs a helper spring because the vehicle sags. So my great grandfather and grandfather would make them. They had full-time jobs. They would make the springs after work, and then they would go sell them door to door on the weekends. So if there was a sagging vehicle in the driveway, they'd go knock on the door. My great grandfather would sell it. My grandpa, who was a senior in high school, would lay on the ground and install the product all for $7 back in 1946. So
Wow.
we've been making helper springs for a long time. And so that's how they got started. I always like to talk about that because that's not at all our distribution model anymore. And I don't think nothing is $7 anymore
No,
either.
not
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so we started in a very different time. And it's been really fun to be fourth generation and be able to, continue this legacy on. Hellwig was also at one of the first SEMA shows. So back in the 60s, the SEMA show was started. They started in Dodger Stadium, underneath Dodger Stadium. And my grandfather at the time was running Hellwig Products and made sure that Hellwig was represented there. So not only have we had a presence for a long time, we've also had a presence within the automotive aftermarket and especially within the SEMA Association as well. So I also spend a lot of time in that space. So I volunteer for the SEMA board of directors. I've been a volunteer for the association for most of my career. So
Wow.
I 19 years now I've been going on for volunteering in the SEMA association space. And within that trajectory of volunteering, I volunteered for the SEMA board of directors and since have taken on the position of chair elect, which means that I will be the chair of the SEMA board of directors. Actually, I take that position next summer in July. So that should be really fun as well and challenging. It's what we're doing in our industry. There's lots of technology changes, lots of things changing. So that also is not. We're not bored. I'm not bored at Hellwig, and I'm not bored here, right?
I'll
In the
bet.
SEMA space. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
well, tell me, in terms of doing SEMA, because there are lots of different vendors there, lots of different things going on at SEMA. Um, and planning a show, what does all of that entail? Because that seems like that would be very involved.
Yeah, it is incredibly involved. And luckily, there is a great staff of professionals that make that all come together and happen. I I've been there only a few times when the convention center is empty, and it is so wild to think that it's empty and then it gets filled up with these beautiful booths and vehicles and all the different things that happen there. And there's a ton of planning. And I mean, even just watching the booth draw and how you select your space and how things move and morph to have this great show. It's intricate. And that happens with a great professional team. What I think SEMA is this great big show and this opportunity for a lot of industry members to come together. It's one of actually the smallest, it's the biggest gathering of small businesses that happen
Wow.
in the United States. So I think it's kind of fun to think about that. Like most of the companies coming there are small businesses. And what I do on the volunteer side is more on the overall association. So while the SEMA show happens 1 week out of the year and it's amazing and it's fun, it's like Christmas happening in 1 week. What the association does the rest of the year is really important for our industry. So they we have a SEMA DC office that does a great job representing us in DC and fighting for our rights, which is really important right now because we have a lot of things on the table, like the right to repair, and we want to be able to repair our own vehicles. There's a lot of things that are happening in just having the freedom of choice too. Around like EV mandates and whatnot. So there's a lot that's happening on that happens all the other weeks out of the year, right? There's this like 1 week that we get to come together, and then all the rest of the year, SEMA really works hard to help businesses and their members.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned EVs. How is all of that um, working into SEMA, and how is that affecting the way that that operates?
Yeah, so I think the EV mandates are an interesting thing. I mean, we have that here in California, and but we don't really have the infrastructure to support it either. So, I think we'll figure out where that goes. And there's a lot of great technology. I think one of the really cool things with SEMA is SEMA members really are innovative and will come up with different solutions. And the idea that there's one path doesn't really make sense. So,
No.
there's a lot of different options, and we're seeing these really cool, innovative, like hydrogen engines and like these really cool things happen, and we get to see them at the SEMA show. And I think that's really what SEMA is working to make sure that there is that choice to go different directions. We want an environment that is healthy and good for our kids for the future, and we want choice with that too.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think it's really hard to try to force feed EVs on everybody when, like you said, well, one, there's not the infrastructure. There's the whole thing with the lithium, getting enough lithium for the batteries.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just don't want electric cars. I mean, it's there's the whole range anxiety, but that's true. I mean, you can't just gas up an EV, go hundreds of miles, put gas in quickly, and then go again. It takes a while to charge. Even with the fast chargers, you're not getting a full charge. What do you get, like 80% on the fast chargers, and you can go a certain distance? So, I mean, there's still a lot of issues with EVs.
Yeah, and they're also really fun too.
Yes.
They have a lot of get up and go.
Oh, they sure do.
There's like it's not that they're bad. It's just that they're not the only choice, right? Like
Right.
there are some good things about them for sure, and there are some really fun things about them too.
Yeah, there's a
And
really neat one, the Lucid Air. I mean, that thing's got gobs of horsepower. I mean, that's
yeah,
a nice car. So yeah, there are some awesome EVs out there. But like
yeah.
you said, people should have choices to choose whether or not they wish to purchase one.
Yeah. Yeah, true. And I think the fun thing with Hellwig, because we're in this space of this like unsung hero, which is under the car. For Hellwig, we go on EVs, like we go on trucks, motorhomes, like anything there. So I think for us, it's been kind of fun to play with these different chassis too. So we've had some Teslas in, and we have a sway bar for the Tesla Model 3s. And so that's been really fun to like go have to test drive, right? In air quotes, and take corners too fast and see how the vehicle handles, and like pushing it to the edge there. It's been that part has been really fun to just play with different technology too.
Have you had a chance to try to do anything with the Cybertruck yet?
No, we haven't, but I have been seeing quite a few of them. So yeah, we have something.
Yeah,
And
I'll be looking forward to that. Because like you said, you see
yeah,
a lot of them out here in California. You see tons of those things. As a matter of fact, they had one at the LA Auto Show today, and I took some pictures of that one, so that'll be going um, on my social media in the near future. But it must be fascinating. So tell me, when you were younger, was it always your goal to be part of the family business?
it was not necessarily a part of my goal. I had this dream. I even when I walk out into the plant now, I have this memory of when I was a kid. So my dad would sometimes have these projects that he would work on, and we would get to go down to the shop when he was working on projects, and my sisters and I would like play with the phones and call each other from different lines, and then we would like walk out into the shop, and there's a smell, with metal of there's just a smell, and I still walk out and like have that feeling, like that youthful feeling of like this is a special place. And so I remember thinking as a kid this was a special place to be, and I still think that now. We do something really cool. We manufacture products here in the US. We take, you know, boring steel rods and turn them into like to sway bars. Like we talk about this unsung hero under the vehicles and the helper springs. We still do both, but we take metal and we heat treat and hot form it, and that's how we get our products. And so I really think that's something special that we do here in the US. I'm really proud of that, and I think I have this awesome opportunity to do that now. And when I was a kid, I thought, this was just really special. So I love that, like, I just get to keep on helping, this specialness that we do continue.
And do you see your company growing even more than it is now? Or is it at a good place for you guys, right where you want to be?
I believe there's always opportunity for growth. Yeah, I think there's some opportunity for us to grow even more. And the thing is that Hellwig is really specializes in what it does. So like while we don't have a very like deep product line, we have a wide. We make sway bars for anything like a golf cart all the way up to these military applications.
Oh,
So,
wow.
well, Hellwig serves the automotive aftermarket, the SEMA world. We also are we serve the military. So we will sell products to like Oshkosh, who make military vehicles. One of our largest sway bars is when we do for them. It's a massive chassis that they build. It's actually fire trucks at airports, and it's a 3 inch sway bar. It's massive. So that is something that they have to maneuver fast. They have to be able to stay in control while they do that. And Hellwig can help with that by making these sway bars. So I love that we have so much opportunity in there anywhere to like make sway bars, right, for a different chassis. And
Mhm.
so that's when you see, do we have opportunity for growth? There's so many vehicles that we can put sway bars on for sure.
where do you see the future of the business going?
I think there's huge opportunity in the military. I'm talking about that here. And
Hmm.
Hellwig became woman owned certified a few years ago. So there is the US government, like no other government, it really supports small businesses and put a lot of dollars behind that in the B's, right? The billions of dollars they want to award to small businesses. And so there's an opportunity for us to have a competitive advantage because of our woman owned status there. And we also make a really good product. So, coupled with that, it helps us have a little bit more competitive advantage there.
Now, speaking of being woman owned, I think it must really excite you and inspire you to be a role model for other women and girls growing up and wanting to be in the automotive business.
It does. And I don't, sometimes when you say that, and even when you say that now, I think, wait, me? I really have been focused on doing a good job and being competent at what I do. Early in my career, I remember someone saying that I was saying something about being, you know, a female and how hard it would be. And he said, "Don't ever say that. The only thing that you have going against you right now is really your youth." So at the time, it was 15 years ago that he said that to me, and I took that to heart. And you can combat youth, and you combat that by being really prepared and just educated. So I've always focused on being competent and the most knowledgeable one in the room, especially on my product, right? I feel like that's always been the focus that I have. So when someone reflects that back of you might be a role model, I think, oh yeah, that is true. And that's not at all what I focus on. I've been really focused in a different direction.
Have you ever had the opportunity to speak to young girls about what you do and about the company and just getting it out there that hey, women can do just as much as a man can do?
Yes, in some ways I have been able to, and mostly I'm speaking in different how I spoke a few years ago at a high school luncheon. So there's this group of senior girls that senior moms tea, and these ladies are a month out from graduating from high school. And so I've been able to speak to that group two times now. And I think it's so fun. And I love that age because it's just the possibilities are endless, right? When you're there. And it's overwhelming because there's so many different directions that you can go. And so I love talking to them, but I would really love to be able to like talk to them one on one and just what do you want to do? Let's break that down, right? I'm the oldest child, so I definitely have some firstborn uh skills that show up where I want to like help solve problems for others. But I think that would be really fun is to help mentor some girls.
Now, next, do you have kids of your own and do they plan on being part of the business one day or would you like them to be part of the business one day?
So I think something happened really beautifully from my family, my parents, my dad especially. Then they put no pressure on me to get involved in the family business. None of us. And so it was always something that really like came from my own desire to get involved.
Mm-hmm.
And I really want to be able to gift my son. So I have a son and he is 15 and I want to give him that same gift of go whatever direction makes sense for you. And and if he wants to get involved, I love being able to take him to different events just because when I was a kid, I thought you could be a policeman. I mean, even though my family had this business, I didn't really think about that, right? There was very little, like, I just had this very narrow view of what I could do, like a policeman, a fireman, or I could be a teacher, right? So, like, I didn't think about like all the different things. Like if you're into cars, but you're really good at math, you can come do accounting. If you're
Right.
into like makeup and you want to do like packaging, there's something, right? There's something niche for all of these different areas. So I really tried hard to expose my son to what he could do if he wanted to get involved in a passion, right? It doesn't, you don't have to, work on cars if you love cars. You can do a lot of different things in that space. So I want him to be exposed to all the different things that you can do. I took him last a summer ago. So I had a work trip and he came with me and I got to see a lot of my customers, which was really fun for me. And then it just lit his head on fire. But we also did, I have a cousin who is a pilot. So we saw him. We had someone from the Navy and we went and visited there. So I just wanted him to see like there are lots of things that you could choose to do. But he got so excited about the idea of becoming an entrepreneur from there. But he said he doesn't want to work with me.
Oh,
but he, but he's 15, so
yeah, you never know. He might just change his mind.
yeah, we'll see.
Tell me, is there something that really drives you to do what you do, to run the company, to be the CEO, and to be the board elect, the chair elect for SEMA? What drives you? What gives you the most passion about working in not only the family business but doing SEMA too as well?
Yeah, I think it's the impact that I get to have that drives me. And in both in Hellwig, it's a different impact, right? It's the ability we're not only serving our customers, but the work we're doing, we support a lot of people. Like we have a big team that makes great products and we're able to, have that team come together. So I really love the impact that I can make there. And then on the other side, I really love the impact that I get to make for the future of the industry too. I, I just recently ran for my position of chair, and I had this awesome opportunity because I was running to talk to past chairs. What did you, and what they did 20 years ago, some of them put us on this trajectory to be able to weather a storm like COVID. And I think that just like gives me chills to think about like the impact that I could make in a positive way, maybe not during even the time I'm there, but like years into the future. I my son wants to be an entrepreneur. He wants to go into the automotive space. I want there to be that opportunity for him. So the idea that the things that we could do to help set the industry up for success in the future gets me really excited.
That's amazing. Well, Melanie, thank you so very much for coming on the podcast today. What a fascinating story and what a life. I mean, what wonderful things you're doing, not only for your family business, but for SEMA. And I'm just excited to see where you're gonna go with chairing SEMA and doing all the wonderful things that you're doing.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me on. This has been really fun.
Yes, it has been. Thank you so much, Melanie. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, with that, everyone, that is it for this episode of the Total Podcast. For me, your host, Phil Scott. Everyone stay safe, be careful out there, take care of one another, and we will talk again soon.